Okay, so the first we're going to start off with is attackers. We call them bad actors. And when you think about why people do a bad thing, why do people do a bad thing? What is their motivation? Give me a couple things you might think of. What? Money? So motivation is monetary. What else? Ego. I can do it, therefore I do. Revenge. Yeah, someone's grumpy. Say again?
The adrenaline.
Adrenaline is sort of the same thing. I can, therefore I do, or just the thrill of the hunt, right? Any others? So we'll talk about that. This presentation focuses on that concept. So let's talk about the cybercrime supply chain. Whoa, it's a business. It's a supply chain. In 2009, I wouldn't have said it was a supply chain. It was very rarefied. Prior to 2009, 2010, you would have a bad actor who would have, basically as a black hat, has a certain thing they do, whether it's they can create malware, they have phishing, or they have one thing that they do, or maybe a couple of things, and they didn't trust each other. So they would have a couple of clients, and they would basically get paid by these organizations, and they didn't really share what they were doing outside of their own experience or their own relationships. Very clandestine. They would meet in person, vet the individual they were going to work for. They were always referred. It was, just like any other very, very closed type of relationship. After 2010, we started seeing the release of malware code and then also tools. So the rise of the tools actually started in 2010. This drives an economy because now you don't need to have that depth of skill. Somebody else has a tool they will let you have, and then you can go and use that tool to then perform some form of exploit. So let's talk about the supply chain. We start with email account harvesting. So there are tools, these have been around for a long time actually, that will basically harvest email accounts from the big account operators, Gmail, Yahoo, Microsoft, and they'll harvest accounts, very small volumes, over a month. So we're talking under 10 a day. Now these are called fresh accounts. So it's just like picking flowers. Okay, so you have all these accounts that have been created, and they use automated tools to create them. Fresh accounts have not been logged into, have not been used to send and receive email. They have a very low value, but if you have 1,000 of something or 10,000 of something, then there's economy of scale, and you can sell that. Not for a lot of money. Then there's the fresh accounts being vetted. Once an account is vetted, it's worth a lot more because it goes up a tier. As an example, with Hotmail, an account goes from being a fresh account after you've logged in, send a few messages. Now they give you storage. They give you the ability to send and receive messages of a certain volume during a day before they might question the account being used for nefarious purposes. Does that make sense? So, say again?
They still use Hotmail?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is converted over to.
Oh, yeah. It's still there. Actually, I have an MSN account. Okay, so you can have accounts and domains that aren't sold or shared anymore. They just don't publicize that you can get accounts in those. So if you have a Hotmail account or an AOL account or an MSN, those accounts still exist out there. Yes?
It's not like they're grandfathered, they still exist.
They still exist, and they're grandfathered in a way that they're migrated onto different servers. So like I pay Microsoft $21 a year to keep my Microsoft Exchange account for my MSN.com account actually active on an Exchange server. So it's in the cloud technically now, but it's not a 365 account. It's a standard Exchange account. But because they made that promise to people that had these accounts years ago, they've held to that promise. And you wouldn't know if you'd not had an account in the 90s. But these accounts that are harvested are then vetted, and you're saying, well, okay, why would someone pay someone else? If you're in Indonesia and you can get people pennies on the dollar to vet your accounts for you, then there's economy of scale there. You can go and vet those accounts. You can sell them for more money. It makes sense. Okay. So that's the email account harvesting. Well, what do we do with email accounts? Well, email accounts are necessary to basically verify that you have storage available. Depending upon where in the world you are, off-country storage is really important. And they will pay, like Chinese will pay, for off-country storage where they can store just about anything they want to. Because in China, it's very much regulated, and they are watched. They store it off-site. They can share it internationally. That makes sense? So storage makes a lot of sense to be sold to people in China, but in the United States, it doesn't make any sense because we get storage with every account we create, right? Yeah, we get cloud storage. So if you are in, say, the Middle East, all the accounts that are created in the Middle East vendors for email accounts that are free always get a lot of storage. So again, it's not a place you'd sell storage, but you could sell it to individuals in other places. That's a great desire. So spam is the next step. What do we do with an email account? Well, we can use it to vet that we are the person we have. I would say we are, because we get that email account, and then you have your SMS text sent, and you verify your identity. Spam is the next step. Now I can use those accounts. If I buy vetted accounts, I can use those for a spam campaign to send out messages. They don't need to be owned accounts by, say, you or I. They could just be these created accounts. And there are thresholds that the vendors use to identify when accounts are being used for spam. However, spam campaign writers are very cagey. They will try to avoid automated detection. They'll avoid the thresholds. They get to know where they are, and they move. So they'll keep their accounts active as long as possible because they're making the money. Make sense? So if I want spam sent or malware sent out and distributed, I would use a spam vendor who has these email accounts to do that activity for me, to perform that activity. So then malware. Well, malware and spam campaigns, those are the payloads that you want in a message that comes from a nefarious source. I'm sure everybody gets spam, right? Everybody gets phishing attempts. In one message, you may have multiple spam and phishing attempts in the same message because they're trying to get the most bang for their buck. If you click on it, they want to get more people to pay who are paying them to distribute this information. So malware writers will avoid detection as well. Malware writers, again, another genre of coder that is trying to monetize their skills, they write malware to avoid detection. There's lots of variations on the theme of malware. Malware can be written in such a way that it's only brought a loader to you. This means that it's a couple of kilobits or kilobytes. It's very small. It will be downloaded onto your system when you click on the message. That's not actually the malware, that's the loader. The loader will then bring down malware over time, as long as it's undetected. Now, the malware brought down can change over time. They can send new malware because the loader's still there. So remember, we've had T-Zone, and we've been pulling viruses and identifying malware and spyware and adware on systems. We clean it, right? Well, actually, you're not truly cleaning the device. We've known for, probably about 7 or 8 years that we cannot truly clean malware and say it's a truly clean system. The scanners are great. You can scan. It'll pick off whatever's known. But the problem is there's a lot of unknown. And until the unknown shows up, the scanner knows about it, that malware still exists. So the rule of thumb should be, when you're out in the field, that if a system has malware detected, it is now considered suspect. It should be wiped. DoD wipe 7 times. Does anybody not know what DoD wipe means? It's okay, don't be ashamed. Raise your hand if you don't know what DoD wipe.
Window washer.
Yeah, so Department of Defense is DoD. Wiping means to actually wipe, you're doing a very low-level wipe on the hard drive 7 times. That's to make it so that the information is really, really confusing, cannot be pieced together. It is very common for hard drives that you think you've wiped information from to actually be used to pull information from. So you need a minimum of DoD wipes 7 times. So, yes?
Correct me if I'm wrong, on the sectors or whatever, on the hard drive, when they write, they tend to overwrite on the edges, and there's little bits of fragments in the, what do they call it, slack space.
Yes.
And that's what that DoD wipe
The
does?
DoD wipes all sectors that are still considered in use. So the drive, whenever you format a drive, yeah. So, well, whenever you format a drive, the drive has a known amount of space. Bad sectors are eliminated from what's available on the drive. So bad sectors mean we can't read or write to them. There's damage to that location. So a drive will then be wiped. So everything gets set to 1s, and then everything gets set to 0s. That's a DoD wipe once. Then if you do that 7 times, it keeps doing it. So the idea is that even when you have a residual charge in your drive, it should eliminate all information. You can sit here at this table right here.
Okay.
And then we'll, as we sort out, we will sort out our teams later on. So the idea is that you want to overwrite the drive at least 7 times. That's part of the goal. Because it could be a rootkit, which means that if you do a standard quick format, that does not rewrite the boot sector. So you have to do a full format, and you do it 7 times. There's tools that'll do it for you. You don't have to.
And that's like an overwrite.
Yes, but you're going to overwrite technically 7 times. So from that perspective, malware is very insidious and will find lots of places to hide. That said, there's banking malware that never even is loaded onto a hard drive. It loads into memory. It's only in running memory. And the loader will reload that every time that system is rebooted. So that's hard to detect because it's technically not running from a drive reading and writing. So there's lots of ways for malware to be avoiding detection, including how it spreads. Malware writers are trying to avoid you detecting that spread is occurring. The botnet is a result of malware being loaded on a system. So it's one of the types of malware, spyware, adware, screen scrapers, keyloggers, all those kinds of nefarious tools. The creation of a botnet is part of that process. Once I have a victim system as a member of my botnet, that's like I've just harvested a cow. I got a cow in my herd. I don't want that cow to leave my herd. I'm going to do everything possible to retain it. So I am going to have now botnets get their updates from command and control servers. These botnets will be tasked differently. So I might have a 100,000 member botnet. I can split that up and sell off parts of it to be used by others. I can do what's called DDoS as a service. I can sell to you for less than $20 a day. I will perform a 1 gig plus attack. Sit up here, please. 1 gig plus attack on your chosen destination for 24 hours for $20. And that's DDoS as a service. So you can see how this is all able to be monetized, right? You can insert yourself into one spot. That one spot gives you, $300 a month. And you're like, oh, that's not a lot of money. But where is $300 a month a lot of money? Where at?
Russia.
Foreign countries. There are lots of foreign countries. Thailand, Indonesia. You could go Africa. I mean, there's lots of countries where $300 is considered big money. I mean, that could be a year's wage. There are other places. I mean, we're not talking very far. UK, Russia. There's places in Europe where an extra $300 in your pocket per month, that's not bad when you're considering that you're limited by your economy and your location. So when we talk about monetization, we're talking about monetization on scale, though. So now, this is the problem. We talked about it 300, but what if it was 300,000? What if that was ransomware, and you succeeded in ransoming to a company, or many, many companies, like with the Petya malware, and you had 1,000 companies respond to a $300 demand. Now we're starting to talk about money that gets everyone's attention, right? So that's monetizing. Last we have, and the botnet is all part of this process because the botnet is where big money, and that becomes where we get to have large action happening. We get to expand on scale. Carding and account personal information harvesting. If I can get an email clicked on through phishing, I can accomplish carding. Because I can load a screen scraper on your system, and I can then start scraping off personal account information and accounts. If it was a hospital, I can scrape that off of what you're entering onto the screen. If it was point of sale, I can scrape that off. And you say, oh yeah, but when we put in our password, it hides it. How many people see one character and then it disappears? Okay, so it's not really hiding it, is it, for screen scrapers? So carding is about getting information for credit cards or from credit cards. So you can do that automated through information data transfer. You can get it through screen scraping and key logging. So that's another form of harvesting. Carding has been around for a very long period of time. Since credit cards have been in use, carding has been around. There's lots of different ways of acquiring that. This is a very automated process where I don't have to go on site. There are a lot of processes that you physically go on site. You just put a USB drive in, or you put a device that's going to capture that information as it's passing through. So carding is a very popular way of getting credit card information and then exploiting those credit cards. Which, if I have a credit card account, what kind of information do I need, including the credit card number and your name, to potentially exploit that account? Address. I might need your PIN number. Okay, so these could all come out of the screen scraping piece. I may need access to your email account, which I can get through phishing, which then gives me access to your email account because you've clicked on it. I now have access, which in turn allows me to send an SMS message to your email to verify the identity on the credit card, and now I have you. So these are all becoming very interconnected, and that's what I'm trying to get through with this one slide, is that this is a supply chain. This is a process where there is a provider and then there's a client, not all the same person. So let's talk about script kiddies. They're not young. Script kiddies are just people who are neophytes. They're starting out. Script kiddies are going to want to use tools that are easy for them to get a hold of, such as malware, where the tools are available. You can buy malware. You can buy lots of free tools. You can buy lots of tools. You can buy for low amounts of money per month to pay a vendor to have access to a tool. You can get free tools, yes.
Do the producers of the tools ever insert malware into the tools?
Yeah, you shouldn't trust that. Well, why not? I mean, you're working with the nefarious to begin with. Yeah. Why trust them, right? And they're going to use online training. There's a wealth of training on how to be bad on YouTube. One of the videos I show my trainees from Radware is I show them how to build a Kali server and attack through Tor, and to use a couple of different types of attack. It's up on YouTube. It's readily available. Do you want to do it? No, not if you want to work in our industry for any period of time. But if you're a script kiddie and you're trying to avoid going through the process of learning about the industry and being vetted, that might be what you choose. Or if you're an entrepreneur, let's call them that, you're building a resume. There is the misunderstanding that if I do bad things and I get attention, I will be hired by a big company for a lot of money. That may work in the short term, but it's not going to work in the long term. Repeatedly, we're seeing that. I like to ask the question, would you hire a bank robber to protect your bank? No. Banks make it very clear that if you have anything over a misdemeanor, they will not hire you. Why would you hire a cybersecurity expert that has worse than that happening? Right? So keep that in mind. It's try not to think in terms of technology that it's orphaned from how we think about other particular quandaries we might put ourselves in. Just because it's technology doesn't mean we should avoid the types of thoughts we have about ethics and behavior. They may or may not be educated in a university. One of the problems educational organizations are finding out now that they've been training cybersecurity professionals or have programs for the past 5 years is that the people they're educating are learning how to use bad tools to do bad things. And where do you think they practice? At the colleges, the universities. And they're attacking their own universities. And they're being attacked because they gain the attention of others. And they'll DDoS during registration so that they can get into the class they want. And they'll DDoS during finals so that they don't have to take a final. Or maybe they got mad at a professor. They can do great damage with limited skills, knowledge, and understanding and impact. So they might not understand what they're actually doing, but because they were able to get a tool and alter it just enough and stumble on something that really is bad for the rest of us, they could take down power in the entire West Coast. The script kiddie could make it so that all hospitals lose access to their patient management system. could make it so that, what other bad thing could happen? You can't use your credit card to pay for gas. Wouldn't that be bad? I've always thought about this when I travel. I carry a certain amount of cash on me when I'm driving someplace, just in the half chance that I cannot use my credit card. It's actually happened to me in Portland.
A lot of traffic lights are controlled.
Traffic flights. I have been lucky so far, knock on
would be
wood, yes. But yes, it would be very bad. United, actually, we've had this happen before. United has had problems with their system. Alaska, there was another one recently, Delta had it. They say, oh, our system is down for maintenance, or we had a minor problem. Who was it? It was, British Airways. They went down earlier in the summer. And everybody got stuck in the UK, okay, in Heathrow. Luckily, I was not traveling during that moment in time, and I wasn't on British Airways. That really helped. But yes, you could get grounded because they cannot use their systems. There's all sorts of things I do, like I print out my boarding passes. I never carry them on a digital device because that's not going to help me when I go to check in. If that happened to Air Canada in the beginning of the year, their system went down in Ottawa, and that caused that they could launch flights, but only if you had the boarding pass printed beforehand, because it was a reservation system that went down. So keep in mind, this can be something that someone stumbles on, and they got lucky. We got unlucky, right? Black hats. Black hats are pretty straightforward. These individuals, it's erroneously coined hacker by mainstream media. Hackers, from a software development perspective, or an engineering perspective, is anybody that comes up with an innovative way to do a thing. That's a hack. But a hacker is given a negative moniker in the 90s. But technically, they don't like to be called hackers. They like to be called black hats. Although they are working on systems, so they are hackers. They have the skills. They have the training. Sometimes they're mentored by somebody that's been doing this a long time. By the way, that's something that's very common in the Russian arena, is they tend to have tools and they have their business, and then they will decide who they're going to hand off said business to and train. And so that's very common in the Russian arena. They sell their services. They will sell tools. They're mercenaries for hire. Not too often are they actual direct hacks. They'll use phishing. They'll use email to get your credentials to break into your companies. So phishing is really the weak link. They are seeking monetary gain. They are seeking notoriety, but they will use a moniker. They will never, an avatar. They will never give their real name. They're very clandestine in their behaviors. They rarely work in concert with other back actors because they just don't trust anybody. Would you trust anybody else? Probably not, because you're doing bad things to them too, so you understand what's happening. And it focuses on a very specific piece of the supply chain. They tend not to spread themselves out. Now, that said, there are some that are, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So, if we talk about black hats for hire, we have to talk about DDoS for hire. Remember I talked about economy of scale? If I can cause disruption to a company, then I can gain attention, I can ransom them, there's a lot of things that I can do and a lot of money I can make from that. So DDoS for hire, in the past 3 years, has become a real problem. Because the actual botnets that are being hired out are being built and then sold to somebody and then used. So there's an economy in there as well. There's a provisioning economy for botnets. The provisioning economy for DDoS for hire. This software used to be just very straightforward, using an internet relay chat server, send a message, attackers do a thing. Now they use command and control servers. This is literally a control platform. It will update the software, give them new attacks. You can run reports to see how your botnet's performing, so you can report back to your client what you're doing. So DDoS for hire is becoming much more of a problem for us as a society. Questions? Wrinkled eyebrows? No? Okay. Gray hats. So I like to tell you that I'm training defenders here. What you do after you leave here is purely up to what you think you're going to be able to afford in your lifetime. Are you going to be able to maintain a career if you dabble in the dark side? Or are you going to have a better time as a defender maintaining a career over your lifetime? We have lots of examples of those people who have done bad things and then get slapped around by the industry or by companies. So keep in mind, gray hats are those individuals that believe they're protecting. I didn't say white hat, I said gray hat. They are believing they're protecting some greater good. They are seeking notoriety, so they have some nefarious motivations. They have a tendency to have an open identity. I'm going to throw Brian Krebs into this pot. Does anybody know Brian Krebs? So you can look up Brian Krebs. He's well documented. He's an author. He is a cybersecurity professional. He prowls the dark web looking for bank accounts that have been publicized as being lost to attacks. And he will go to the small banks that can't afford to protect themselves, and he'll offer up his services. So he's bottom feeding on the small banks. Now, okay, he's doing them a favor, right? But also we could say that he's not so much dabbling in the good side in defense. He's actually taking advantage of things that are occurring along the way. But he's giving back to society. So we call him a gray hat. He will use knowledge and skills, or they will use knowledge and skills. They're openly there for hire. They'll help organizations under threat. A lot of organizations are beginning to come to the point where they're distrusting cybersecurity consultancies, which tend to be populated with former hackers or current hackers. How do we know the difference? Right? We don't know what they're doing in their part-time job. Maybe they have a hobby. Right? So this places your intentions under question. There's a really good example of this. There was a billboard company down in the southern United States, East Coast, and suddenly the billboard company had porn showing up in their billboards in the Bible Belt. Okay, that's not really going to work out real well. So a cybersecurity professional called up the company and said, hey, company, your billboards all have porn on them. Would you like me to help you fix the problem and save your reputation? And they said, no, we don't trust you. We think you could have been the person that did it. Yeah, and this is a very common response from the people you try to help is, did you do this? Not that you're on the side of doing good things, but that you are actually the nefarious one.
You know the old saying, is this kind of,
Go ahead.
whoever smelt it, dealt it.
Whoever smelt it, dealt it. Okay.
No,
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, you basically, you noticed it first. You must have been involved somehow. How did you know this, right? And yeah, there is some of that concern. There's two sides of the fence on this. There are those white hats out there who do research and who are defenders, and yeah, they dive deep into the nefarious that's going on, but they never act on it. They only give information. Problem is a majority of society has seen the other side of that, which is, yeah, your hands are dirty. A really good example, when WannaCry got loose September and October of last year, when Petya got loose, okay, WannaCry, there was a kill switch. It was basically, the domain was unregistered. As soon as the domain became registered, it stopped the spread of the malware. The young man who identified it was 23 years old, said he was from a security consultancy, and that he had found the fix, and I should get all the attention for that. The industry perspective was that he was not clean and shiny. How do you get there? Okay, part of it is, how do you get there so young? There's a lot of precocious human beings. But there was a distrust. And the reality is that actually he was put up to the fix. Somebody gave him the information, he went there and did it because they wanted it shut down, but they didn't want to be identified. This is why when he came to Black Hat this year, he got grabbed by the FBI and CIA in Las Vegas. Mr. Sims and I went to Black Hat this year. I went to Black Hat, and he and Lexi went to Black Hat. What was the other one? The Attacker Conference. There's one, they're 2 days apart, and DEF CON. So I went to Black Hat because that's the industry side, that's all the people who are professionals and doing the work, and then DEF CON is all the hobbyists. So he was grabbed at Black Hat because they told him, show up and we'll let you speak, and he showed up and they grabbed him. Yeah. So that's what they found out. But the reality is that he could have gotten lucky, even as somebody that had been dabbling a while, but more than likely he was put up to it by somebody else. Cybercrime petty thief, they're more talented, they're seeking monetary gain, they're seeking notoriety, they might be an entrepreneur seeking payment via Western Union, PayPal, WebMoney, Bitcoin. They have a specialty, they generally offer their services via the internet and hidden websites, black market forums, and DDoS for hire. So they have a niche that they're making money on. And they may work in partnership with other bad actors. They tend to be much more relaxed because they're going in from the business side. Organized crime. Organized cybercrime specifically. And organized crime has been around pre-Roman era. I think Babylonians had organized crime, right? Anytime you put human beings and money moving, there's organized crime. So there are some traditional things that organized crime gets involved with, right? There's money laundering, there's prostitution, there's fencing of stolen goods, gambling, okay. Those all exist, by the way, via the internet and are often controlled by organized crime, yes.
Yeah, they just, sometime, I believe it was during the summer, they had busted some, IT guys. It was something to do with prostitution. They created this, yeah, they created this,
A personalized website where if you're looking for a person, they had a lady, some Asian lady, stayed at a Bellevue apartment, and I guess the management said they never saw them left for work or came home, but always had different people coming in and out.
Well, that's a good sign, right? It's either drugs or pornography, right? Yeah, there's some sort of nefarious activity going on when there's a whole lot of people and it's just a house, right? It's easier to wash if it's a business location, right? But in the instance of that particular porn ring and prostitution, what they were doing is they were trying to be cyber pimps. Okay, still the same thing. Got to have a human being in a bed, right? But the idea is getting a larger clientele through the use of websites and such. The back page, yes. So using locations that are known to be nefarious to advertise, right? But often they will hire unwitting skilled workers at higher than normal wages and salary levels. If you think you are being paid more than you should be, question it. Question the organization you're going to work for. Okay? If you're getting more money than you should, or if you're getting something unusual in the way of compensation or benefits or perks, I would first think, why? Now, if you're like me, you've been out there in the industry a long time, my salary and perks tend to be pretty interesting. But even I have a place where I'm like, really? Really, I don't think so. So don't trust just because the job is advertised on Indeed that it is truly an upfront and non-nefarious activity. You could be writing malware. You could be performing attacks for nefarious individuals. You could be gathering information or writing code to gather information. You could be supporting a tool, and that tool is used to gather information and perform DDoS attacks. I mean, if you don't know, you have to understand who you're working for. But they often will use the supply chain and augment with new technology. So they are looking at basically protecting their perceived territory. There is a malware, actually there's a couple of them now, there's malware out there that once it's installed on your system, it ransoms to you. But it does it a little differently. It says, okay, I'm going to ransom you. You can't use your system, but if you pay us, we'll let you use your system, pay us every month, and we won't let anyone else infiltrate your system. We'll protect you. Does that sound like protection money to you? Yeah. Does to me. Only thing that's missing is the bat on the sidewalk, okay? I'm seeing that this is the same concept. It's like they just augmented it to work in a cyber economy. Then there's the government sponsor. Now, I know there's a lot of veterans in the crowd. I know that you've worked for the government before, but you are no longer working for the government. You're now civilians. This must change your perspective very much. Now, when you leave here, you may work for the federal government. Some of our students go on to work for the NSA or the FBI, even the CIA. Again, the skills we teach you in the program are to help you identify when you are the patsy, when you are the fall guy. I visited with what's called the ERT team it's the Emergency Response Team for Attacks, from Checkpoint. And I asked them, I said, have any of you worked, because I was in Washington, D.C., I said, any of you worked for the government? And all of them had. And I said, so, what's that relationship like? And they said, well, if you are the federal employee, you hire contractors, and you have the contractors do the dirty work. Anything you don't want to get your hands dirty on. And when things go sideways, you're not at fault. The person who did the dirty work is. So, eyes open. This is not the military. You are a civilian. Even if you're working for a military-esque organization, it can go backwards on you. So keep that in mind. It's your career, your income, your life moving forward. It's a completely different perspective. Government-sponsored, though, they maintain anonymity, but they will also gain notoriety within their own circle, meaning normally within their own organization. They often work through clandestine communication. They're very highly skilled. The federal government has pretty much every device is a specially designed, crafted device for the federal government only, not manufactured outside the United States, because they can't trust the devices not to be used against them. So from that perspective, the targets can be governments, other governments, can be civilian organizations within the United States and abroad if you're government-sponsored in your United States. Often when I'm training organizations around the world, I'll say, so there's an attack on your network. Does it matter what government it's coming from? It could be the United States NSA that's attacking you, right? You don't know why they're attacking you. It's just you're being attacked. It's all about defense. It's not about the who. We no longer are concerned about who is attacking. We're concerned about blocking and defending. That's why I said it's more important for you to have that perspective first than to get all confused about this whole idea of attack. So it might be a Chinese organization attacking a government installation in the United States, or in Bolivia, or in Brazil, any place. It could be an American organization that's government-sponsored, attacking any number of country entities around the world, or organizations around the world. You have something they want, and they will work very hard to get it. There's often collateral damage, and this is a growing concern, because there is attack with impunity, which means if I want to distract you, and I am running a campaign of DDoS to hide my other nefarious activities I'm doing, I am going to, say, attack Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme might have an ISP, and that ISP is shared by Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've now attacked Krispy Kreme, but Kentucky Fried Chicken is down as well. That's called collateral damage, because the DDoS attack is affecting both organizations because they both use the same ISP. I will let you know when I train very large organizations, carriers, Verizon, AT&T, Cellular One, Telstra. I've been to a lot of carriers. They are feeling the burn of DDoS attacks. They're too big. It used to be they said, well, we got all this acreage, we're okay. 100 gig attack, no sweat. Now, they're really feeling the burn because they don't have enough acreage anymore. They don't have enough capacity to handle the attacks we're seeing with the Internet of Things. The Petya attacks, well, the WannaCry and the Petya attacks have been over a gig. That's more than they can handle. So now we're talking about truly, potentially crumpling the Internet and its ability to function. So that affects a lot more than just water, power, lights, getting gas at the gas station, going to the hospital. That affects a lot of things in our society. Hacktivist. I like talking about the hacktivist last because the hacktivist is just somebody that's ticked off at you. And I don't care what the reason is. There is a reason, and now they're going to prove their point. A hacktivist does not need to stand in front of the White House anymore in the rain, looking very sad with a sign to get your attention. No, they can do it from the comfiness of the beach or on a Wi-Fi connection at the hotel, or they can do it in their house, or they can do it any place. They can be here at TCC even, technically. So the hacktivist may be skilled or unskilled. Hacktivists, though, tend to use social media to drive attacks. So Anonymous is a really good example. I think Anonymous, I mentioned who is Anonymous. I'll talk about them in a sec. But they're a really good example of an organization that uses, or I should say lots of mini organizations that use the name Anonymous to basically drive attacks by getting social media to drive people towards a website. It's called a flash crowd. It's a lot of good traffic, but it's too much. From the perspective of the host company being attacked, all those people being driven to it, it looks like an attack to them, even though it's good traffic. They also might buy into DDoS tools or other types of tools that allow them to attack. The attacks are often preceded by doxing. Doxing is where I let you know I have you. I tell you a story. I say, I've got your network. I know what the IPs are. Here are your systems. I make it sound like I've got you. I have interior knowledge you can't defend against. I generally attack very soon afterwards. And they'll proclaim their attacks to the media. They'll say, I'm going to attack because. And then off goes the attack. And because these are a lot of good users coming from a lot of different places, often it overwhelms even defense systems. So Anonymous. Who is Anonymous? Well, Anonymous is a name, we'll call it a label, that small groups of people will associate with that term so that they can get attention. I was in Portland and I saw 4 people standing back to back, like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, holding laptops, and they've got the mask on, and they're just standing there. And I walk up, because I'm just really curious, and I walk up and I look and say, so, what we got going here? None of them would talk. Young woman walks up. She says, the images on the screen are about animal abuse for scientific nature, and we're protesting that. So they were PETA. They were protesting against animal abuse. They had nothing to do with Anonymous from the perspective of a cyber attack, but they had used it because that was something they knew would gain attention. People would associate that with them. Although Anonymous is also used as a way of generating these social media attacks. A really good example was there was an attack in 2014 to Boston Children's Hospital. I don't know if anybody heard about this, but what happened was the hospital had a young girl in there. She's being treated for leukemia, I believe, and her parents said, okay, we don't want to, we've gone through a lot of treatment over and over. We want to take a break. We want to not do this new treatment that you're trying to propose. The hospital went to the state of Massachusetts and had the young girl made a ward of the state. That meant that the state decided her treatment, not the parents. So Anonymous took, and parents probably get real itchy when we talk about this, right? So Anonymous said, we are going to protest this. We disagree with what has just happened. So as long as you persist in going forward with deciding you're going to treat her, we're going to attack you. So they did doxing first. They attacked. It wasn't very large. This organization had a 4 gig pipe, 4 gig capacity to the internet. At just the attention traffic that was coming in, meaning the social media traffic that was being driven to their website, they lost the ability to use email. They couldn't have their website accessed. Their patient management system went down. Remember, you go to the hospital. How many people have been to the hospital and seen the patient management system? You walk in and they've got a screen there and they enter your information. Okay. Without that, they don't know who you are. They don't know what drugs you're allergic to. They don't know what treatments you've had before. They need into that system. They also could not write script. So they couldn't stand up at the bedside and go, oh, you need this different drug. Order it. They write it downstairs, up it comes, and you're feeling better. They couldn't do that. It was just like they'd had an earthquake, and they had no power, no water, and no lights. They had to do everything.
If they couldn't do that, that affects the operating room too.
Everything. Everything. Basically, they are redirecting traffic. It's just like you're under a disaster condition. So they stopped admitting patients. They sent all of their patients who were due for surgery to other hospitals. They stopped accepting in the emergency room. The people who were there that could be treated were and discharged, but then that was it. They couldn't take any more patients. This is for a month. All surgeries were canceled. This is the first 2 weeks of this. was bumping along only about 2 to 3 gig. Then the DDoS attacks started. This is when we started to see the actual botnets coming online. When they finally came online fully, they had radware in place. That's how I know all the details of the attack. But they had radware in place, and radware was basically mitigating on site and scrubbing about 60 gig. It took them 2 weeks to build up to that level. So they were able to start functioning at that 2-week window, but now they had no billing. Think of the monetary impact on the hospital. This is affecting the community locally. It's affecting people that had to go in for surgeries. Think of that impact. Was that good social justice? Not if you're one of those waiting for a surgery for your heart. Not if you were the one in the hospital and you needed pain meds. That was poor social justice from your perspective, right? So that's anonymous. By the way, the man who perpetrated the actual large attacks that brought down, basically he was the driver behind the social media burst and then, of course, the DDoS attacks, was actually captured in the Caribbean. On a sailboat, yes. I believe it was a Carnival cruise came by and said, "Oh, you're floating out here, do you need help?" He said, "Yeah." Picked up a bunch of computer equipment and emptied the boat of computer equipment. And it was a little itchy for the FBI. The Coast Guard and the FBI caught him at the dock in Miami. And found out, lo and behold, it was the guy that had perpetrated this attack. So just because you think you get away with it, the internet and technology has a very long view of information. What you do today on the internet will be known for the next 10,000 years. Because it's not going to go away, right? Everybody knows about the historical version of the internet, right? That it's captured daily. So what you see on the internet today is for posterity because they actually capture a copy of the internet, the HTML side. They copy a capture of it every day. It's called the Wayback Machine. You can try time travel back in time. Okay. So, thank you.